ever get this feeling like the world needs a bit of help, like a tune-up,
Yeah.
but the instructions have like totally vanished?
Oh, absolutely. That's a common feeling, that
Mm.
yearning for making things better.
Hmm.
But the way forward is, it's
Wow.
like a broken compass, isn't it?
It really is. And that leads us to today's deep dive. We're looking at Pedro Elias and his pretty thought-provoking reflection called Let It Flow.
Okay.
And now, before you think, oh no, not another self-help thing, Elias, he comes at this from a different angle.
Mm-hmm.
It's about us, like where we fit in something way bigger. It's got, dare I say, a bit of a spiritual vibe.
It does, yeah. And what Elias does so well, he really gets at this feeling that so many of us have, especially, well, you're always seeking out new knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
He says it's like being stuck in a maze. Our minds...
Oh, I know that feeling.
Right.
Who hasn't felt like that lately? I mean, seriously.
It's true.
You've got information overload, the pressure to make, like, the perfect decision every single time.
Every single time.
It's exhausting.
It is. We're just bombarded with choices and opinions constantly. So it's no wonder we get caught up in that, desperately searching for the right path. Like there's just one right answer.
Right.
But Elias, he asks this really important question. What if that need to control everything, what if that's actually what's tripping us up?
So what are we supposed to do then? Just like wave the white flag and surrender to all the chaos?
Well, not exactly.
Yeah.
It's not about, totally giving up. Elias is talking about shifting our viewpoint, our
Right.
perspective. Imagine, instead of gripping the steering wheel so tight, we just trust that something bigger is guiding us,
Okay.
even though we can't see the whole road ahead.
Yeah, that reminds me of this time I was really debating this big career move.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my gosh, I did all the research, spreadsheets, you name it. It was paralyzing, actually.
Wow.
And finally I thought, you know what? I'm just going to go with my gut. And I took the leap.
You did.
And it led me, well, here I am. I mean, I couldn't have planned it, but it's been amazing.
And that's the thing. We try to plan everything, engineer our lives.
Mm.
But sometimes the most powerful thing, just like you experienced, is to let go.
Right.
Trust that it'll work out.
Yeah.
That we'll end up where we're supposed to be.
Surrender. It's not a word we like to use very much, is it? But I'm interested, this active surrender thing. It's not just like doing nothing, is it?
Right.
How does Elias define it?
He uses this great analogy, a firefighter in the firehouse.
Okay.
They're not, out chasing every little alarm. They're prepared. They're ready.
Yeah.
They trust that their skills will be used when the moment arrives, their specific moment.
I love that. That really captures it perfectly, that balance.
Right.
The firefighter, waiting, prepared. And full disclosure, sometimes I'm that person who's run out before the alarm even went off.
Yeah.
Tripped over the hose, the whole deal.
In there.
Not a good look.
But imagine that sense of peace. We each have a role to play. We just have to be ready. What do you think would be different for you if you could live with that level of, like, deep trust?
Oh, so much. But what about someone who's listening?
Yeah.
And they relate to that feeling of, I got to do something, wanting to make a difference, that they're stuck in that maze we were talking about.
Yeah.
How can they use that firefighter idea? Where's their firehouse, metaphorically speaking?
That is such a great question. And it gets right to the core of Elias's message. She would probably say, I think. It's about figuring out what your own personal gear is.
Okay.
The skills and the passions that you bring, the things that light you up, that you're just naturally drawn to.
Okay.
Those are like hints, clues to figure out where you can really make a difference.
So it's less about like this frantic search for the right cause and more about getting ourselves ready, honing our skills like your firefighter.
Exactly. When you're really plugged into your purpose, like really connected, the calls will come. You'll be ready.
Yeah.
Not from this place of like, oh my gosh, got to do something, anything.
Right.
But from a place of, I'm here, I'm ready.
Okay. But let's be real. Waiting for that alarm, it can be tough. Like our world, it's all about doing. So to just be still,
Right.
it feels kind of passive, almost lazy, doesn't it?
Yeah, I get that.
How does he bridge that gap? Like surrender, but also action?
He would say, letting go, it's not about checking out.
Okay.
It's about shifting how we think.
Mm-hmm.
You know how you sometimes push on a door and it won't open, and then you realize it's a pull door?
Oh, yeah.
It's like that. Sometimes the hardest thing and the most important is recognizing when to stop pushing
Wow.
and just listen. you know?
That is a great analogy, especially for people like me who, well, I tend to overthink a little.
We all do it.
Okay, good to know.
But when you let go of that need to control, that's when something deeper can come through.
Mm-hmm.
You create space for it. Elias would say, that's when you're really in the flow. Not because you're forcing it, but because you're open to it.
So not battling through that maze, but trusting, like we were saying, trusting the river.
Yeah, yeah.
It might not go exactly where we thought it would,
Right.
but it might be even better.
And those unexpected places,
Right.
those are often the most incredible.
You know, that takes me back to Elias's whole thing about the maze. We talked about the firefighter, but that maze feeling, it's real. So how does he say we should deal with feeling lost, especially now when everything feels so complicated?
It's about fear and control. He'd say that maze, it's our limited view. We box ourselves in with what we already know.
Okay.
But he wants us to ask, are those walls even real? Or are we building them ourselves out of our fear or limiting beliefs?
So it's not just a physical maze, it's mental, emotional.
Exactly. We have to learn to navigate that inner landscape. Just like someone climbing a mountain uses their gear and their knowledge. Mindfulness, looking inward, connecting with nature. These are all tools to help us get our footing.
Okay, so we're more aware of those self-imposed limits, but then what? How do we actually make different choices, especially when that fear pops up inevitably?
That's where that trust part comes in again.
Okay.
Really believing in something bigger than ourselves, whether it's, a higher power or the universe, or even just your gut feeling.
Right.
When you trust you're being guided, you're more likely to take those leaps of faith, even when you can't see the whole staircase.
And those are the scariest steps, but they're usually the ones that lead to the most growth.
Yeah, absolutely. Every time you choose trust over fear, you get better at handling uncertainty.
Right.
You find strength you didn't know you had.
Elias also talks about how this let it flow way of life, it's not about pretending challenges don't exist, right?
No, not at all.
He seems to say they're just part of it.
Part of the deal, yeah. He's not saying life's all sunshine and rainbows.
Right.
He knows there are hard parts. Sometimes it feels like, hitting a wall.
So what are we supposed to surrender to then? When things are tough, are we just supposed to give up?
It's about surrendering the fighting.
Okay.
Not surrendering to the tough thing itself. It's like recognizing that even when it's hard, there's something to learn.
So not trying to swim against the current when you hit the rapids.
Exactly.
More like learning to ride them.
Exactly. And you know what? Sometimes those rapids, they show you what you're capable of.
Right.
You discover courage you didn't know you had.
This makes me think about what you were saying earlier about, figuring out our strength, what we're good at. It seems like there's a connection there between knowing yourself and finding that peace even in the challenges.
You're right on the money. When you're in tune with what makes you, challenges become less like roadblocks and more like opportunities.
I like that.
You can be curious about them instead of afraid.
So how do we keep hold of that sense of purpose, especially when everything's so nuts?
Right.
Are there things we can do, practices, that help you listen to that inner voice?
There are. Elias actually talks about some of them. He talks about finding stillness, quiet.
Which I gotta say, that's like the opposite of everyday life, isn't it?
Right.
I mean, notifications, information coming at you a million miles an hour.
It's true. It takes effort. But even just a few minutes a day to just be present. It's like hitting pause on a movie. You step back from all the action for a second.
And actually hear yourself think.
Exactly. That's when you can hear that inner voice, your intuition. It gets drowned out in all the noise of the day-to-day.
So it's not even just like the outside noise, it's our own brains going a mile a minute too.
Yeah. Things like meditation, journaling, nature, those help you find that stillness inside.
So we get better at paying attention to what matters. Those little whispers, that can guide us.
That's it. Elias would say that's you tapping into the flow, not by making it happen, but by being open to it.
Okay, that makes sense. So when we're in tune with that inner compass, we start making choices that feel right, even if our logical brain's like, wait, what?
It's true. It's like trusting the river knows where it's going.
Yeah.
Even if we can't see around the bend.
This has been awesome. Really makes you think. Surrender, it's not about giving up. It's about, being here now. Trusting that wherever we are, it's where we're supposed to be.
I love that. Saying yes to the journey, even the messy parts.
Right.
Knowing that even when we're lost, we're never really alone.
There's something guiding us. I like that.
Like that flow, always moving us forward.
So as we wrap up, I'm curious, if we're all leaves on this river,
Yeah.
where do you feel yourself being carried?
Ooh, that's a good one.
Something to think about as you navigate your own path. Thanks for joining us for the deep dive.